Build it once and watch the money roll in. That's the dream of marketing automation, right? But anyone who's tried to set up automated email funnels knows that it's not that easy. How should you evergreen your funnels? In this episode of Data Beats Opinion, we're talking to email automation expert Jason Resnick of NurtureKit. We're exploring what's critical, what's a distraction, and how businesses can uplevel their automation game. Now on to the show. Hello, this is Keith Perhack, and welcome to another episode of Data Beats Opinion. I am here with Jason Resnick. Jason, super happy to have you on here. For people who don't know, Jason is the founder of NurtureKit, and we're going to talk about some awesome email automation and analytics and just honestly geek out for the next 30, 45 minutes. So,
yeah, awesome. Thank you for having me, Keith. I mean, I can nerd out about this stuff for hours. So, in the next half hour, it's great for folks that are listening. So
I'm 100% the same way. I was talking with someone who's like, well, do you like being on stage? It's like, look, I can talk for 5 hours on this stuff. Like, if you get me started, I will just keep talking forever. So at some point, just cut me off. So tell everyone, because I know, tell me a little bit about you, what you do, and kind of what you focus on.
Yeah. So I'm a New Yorker through and through, family guy. I have 2 young kids, and 2 young boys, I should say. But I'm an email marketing and automation expert. I have a data mindset. I grew up in my career as a developer, shifting focus more towards the email marketing and automation because as a developer, I even flocked towards the hard at the time. Mm-hmm. And this goes back pre-Amazon. My gray hairs show age a little bit, but pre-Amazon, it was e-commerce. And while developers were like, hey, I don't want to deal with that, working in shopping carts and checkout processes and integration with all various different APIs, I was like, let me at it. I want to go there, right? Because for me personally, it was all about the humans. And I, minored in psychology. I always found human nature interesting. Mm-hmm. And how people react to certain situations and why they don't do things. So for me, back in the day, it was like you would hear people, I'm never going to put my credit card in the
I
web.
Remember that, yeah.
What's that about? And now these days we don't even think about it twice, right? But that was an interesting problem back then. And so I pivoted my career and my business around 2016, where I was moved away from the development work strictly into the email marketing and automation work because you could personalize and segment people on your email list. I always felt that the inbox was a personal space for the individuals, and the businesses could do better rather than just broadcasting people out and hitting them using email like a blunt tool. Instead, hey, we could be smarter about this. We know about that person. We know what purchase history they are at a basic level. Let's not promote the products that they bought already. Let's promote the product that makes most sense to them. And so
this is the thing that gets me still to this day, especially in e-com. I see this a lot more in e-com than I do in like coaching creators, that kind of stuff. But just the bluntness of the marketing is so bad. Like, you go on Amazon, it's like, I bought a dishwasher. And suddenly there's like, would you also like to buy another dishwasher? It's like, I'm not buying another dishwasher. I just bought one. And it's just, you see retargeting for things you've bought or things that it's like no one puts that psychology or that thought into the marketing. They're just like, if A, then B, spend money, do it. And it's
for all intents and purposes, if you have like a large list, I look at it like fish trawling, right? Like, you see these big fishing boats with this large net, right? And they just go and sweep up the ocean and then dump out the net into some sorting machine where all the other fish go back out into the ocean and they keep the fish that they want. And so It's like, if you have a large list, tens or hundreds of thousands of people on your list, and you send out a broadcast message, all right, Like,
you'll get conversions. Yeah.
yeah, you'll get those conversions, and it is probably more cost effective for you to just do that. However, I would argue that one, I have the evidence behind that. I have clients that have 150 people on their list and make six figures from their list. And I've worked with clients that have had 500,000 people on their list and barely crack five figures.
Right.
So it's like, if you personalize and you really cater to the individuals on the list,
It's
the sky's the
yeah.
limit there.
I've always said marketing is applied psychology, and it's about understanding your audience and then taking that understanding and understanding the motivation behind them and then giving them what they want. And that's at the end of the day, that's kind of the foundation of marketing and sales on the internet at this point, right?
Yeah. And that's, to your point, that's what I always say is there's two bits of information. If you could put it into words on a buy button, there is no objection there. And one, it's the intent of the individual. So like, what's their immediate goal that they have with being on your list? And two, what's the emotion behind that goal? Right. Which is always the harder thing. Right. And so, sometimes that's the thing that you really kind of have to hit home on. So like for me, the emotion behind anything I do with the business is to get away from the screen and spend time with my boys and my wife. Right. And so how do you infer about that? It's hard. You kind of have to ask, but there's a lot of tools and things nowadays. And even you can assume those kinds
based
of things.
on
Like
who they
if
are.
I put an email out, one article is about family life or nomad or traveling or something like that. But then the other article is agency life, hustle, awards, things like that. The people that click on the one, family life nomad, you can assume that that's a priority to them, because if they didn't click on the second one, that they don't want that. That's not even the headline wasn't interesting to them. So you could bucket your audience in that way. So you turn that into a call to action. The call to action is much better.
Yeah. And you're getting into my favorite thing, which is segmentation, list segmentation, and then optimizing messaging based on that segmentation. So you're talking about one of my favorite things, which is sending an email with or in this case, sending two emails. And it's like, okay, which do you identify with? Those are the ones that are going to click. You have just automatically segmented your audience into two different groups. And then you can take that segment, tag them, and say, okay, well, how does this tag convert into customers versus this tag convert into customers? And then I can start to see, okay, do we need more messaging in this branch versus this branch? And then it just explodes out the number of things and the number of strategies you can do with your marketing.
Correct. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm a big fan of testing the list. And I get some of the mindset around that. A lot of people are like, oh, I don't want to bother people. I want to only send the thing that works, but then they don't send anything because they're not really sure what works. And so I'm like, sometimes you have to play psychologist to my own customers, but it's funny because it's like, let's try this. And then when they see it happen in real time, they're like, hey, we ran this campaign, last year for Black Friday. We made, 30% more this year because we did this step in September to segment people for November. And it unlocks a lot of things in their brain about like, oh, these are all the things we can do. And I'm like, okay, well, slow down. Like we don't need to do all the things because there's so many. And that's the thing that I think a lot of people get hung up on is like, what do I segment by? Yeah. Right? Like I could do all the demographics. I could do all the psychographics. I could do all of these different things and slice and dice my audience in so many different ways. When I'm like, really, there's only like maybe 4 or 5 different things that you really need to pay attention to make sales. Right. And so, it's always fun. And what's really great about it is that when I got into this sort of, helping online businesses and coaches, and that's typically who I help, online membership websites and things like that, rather than e-com. when I got into that, it was only those people that had well-established businesses and maybe even well-established lists. They were running ads to grow the list and had low-end products that led to the higher ticket products and things of that nature. These people were focused in on segmentation and personalization. Now that the last 18 months, 24 months, I've seen a real big shift that even smaller audiences, smaller
Yeah.
businesses, right, that have smaller audiences, they are now focused in on segmentation and personalization. And they may not even really understand how to do it, yet I'm getting asked more
How do I
about
do
it from
it?
those kinds of folks than ever before. And most of them say like their social media has gone away, ads are too expensive or things like that. But now they're like, hey, how much can I squeeze out of the audience that I have now? Like they don't want to just blanketly send out the weekly email and hope and pray. They want
Yeah.
to really be strategic around the things that they run. So
I had two absolutely shocking moments. The first one was last year at Craft and Commerce 2024. That's ConvertKit Now Kit's conference. And they announced the partnership with SegMetrics, and people cheered for analytics in Kit. And these are creators. These are not super data oriented analytic people like me. They're creators. They're people doing cooking YouTube videos and social media and all this stuff. And there was just cheers. And I was like, what bizarre world am I in now? But you're exactly right that people are starting to realize that. And then at ClickFunnels event, Funnel Hacking Live at the beginning of this year, we had the exact same thing. They were announcing these new analytics and people just went ape crap, right? Like, and as someone, and I think you're the same as like, who was always into the data, but had a hard time getting people, especially at the like creator, not doing millions of dollars level, to have people excited about segmentation and attribution is just mind blowing. But it's all changing because, like you said, ads are not performing as well anymore. And so the cheap leads, what you were saying with the fish trawling, right? We're not able to trawl effectively anymore. So we really have to focus in on the people in our list who are part of our audience and relate to them better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that, it's funny that you mentioned like the cheers for analytics, because when I talk with folks and they say, hey, like, what have you seen in email lately that's working well? Or if they talk about like their experience and like, hey, we used to get like X, Y, and Z conversions on these kinds of campaigns, and now we're not seeing that anymore. Like, what do you think is up? I'll always say, well, what kind of tracking? What are you doing? Like, what have you changed? And then they really never have a good, clear answer for that. Like, well, what changed? Like, where are you fishing from? Like, where are you getting your subscribers from? Is it organic versus ads? Or is it, what's the time to their first purchase that they had? Like, when it was working, how long did it take from the time they opted into your list to the time that they bought? They're like, don't know. And I'm like, okay, well, that's, how do we
got
know?
A problem there, first
right?
of all.
Right. And I'm like, okay, so that's interesting. So one, we don't have proper tracking in place. You just kind of, and then it usually goes down the hill of like, so how did you know it was working before? Well, I saw the Stripe notifications.
Right.
Like,
Or I was making money. Like that's
right.
At the end of the day, it's like I made money. So
which valid. However, it's like, how do we fix something if we don't know what's broken? Right. And so for me, it all comes down to like, were people converting in your welcome sequence and now they're not? Or is it now there's some automated pitch that you have right after your welcome sequence that was working before and now it's not, right? And so like the time to first purchase sometimes is important to know how long the sales cycle is, right? Just of your email subscribers. And even just putting those little bits of tracking into your automation could go a long way with trying to figure this stuff out. And, a lot of times the tinkerers, those people with smaller audiences and less of a budget, they don't know what they don't know, right? They don't know how to establish those kinds of trackers in there. And they're like, how do we do this stuff? And the reason why analytics got those cheers was because they were like, hey,
Now
email isn't a part of these numbers are not in Kit, right? Like if you go into Kit, it'll tell you the open rates, it'll tell you the click rates, it'll tell you even purchasing information, the revenue that's in there if you hook it up. Mm-hmm. But they're not going to tell you that email 2 converted in your sales sequence, converted more subscribers than the last email, right? Like it doesn't tell you that kind of information. Exactly. And that's where that's why analytics gets a big cheer, because the hope is that there's going to be a mechanism to do that, because that's what like my customers come to me for. They're like, we need to know which emails are converting, which broadcasts are converting, which campaigns are converting, and where these Stripe notifications are coming from, because we want to capitalize on that.
Yeah. I always say people, when they get started, they're successful and they're not looking at the numbers because they're successful. They're like, hey, I'm doing great. Right. And then at the point where they start to plateau, that's when they start to figure out like, oh, I need to know some of the stuff. And they haven't been tracking it this whole time. So now they have to start getting the data from zero. Whereas if they were tracking it that whole time, at least they just had the data, they'd be able to say, oh, here's where I was getting people before. Here's where I'm not. And be able to pivot on that. I always talk about, I talk about nurture sequences. And when I say, okay, you have a nurture sequence that converts at 50%, right? 100 people come in, 50 people purchase. I'd kill for that. Like 50% conversion rate is great. But then you break it down by, let's say, where they came from. And you say, oh, people came in from Facebook ads converted 100%. People come in from Instagram ads or Google ads converted 0%. And suddenly that 50% doesn't look so great, right? Because you have a single channel you're just wasting money on. Mm-hmm. So it's.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing, like a lot of people the channel matters of who, and that's what kind of like, if I look at my clients, when they come to me, there's 2 figures that they're looking for. Is my list growing and am I getting revenue? That's what's most important for them first. But then inevitably 1A and 2A is, where is it coming from? Mm-hmm. And 2A is which email is it converting from, right? The revenue side. They really want to know that. And so like, what's interesting is when I give an automation, when I build out an automation for folks, they often look at it like, that's a lot of nodes. You got a lot of things happening here. And so in Kit, there's custom fields, there's tags, branching, there's all sorts of different things that you could do in an automation. And they're like, okay, well, this is a lead magnet follow-up. Great. Awesome. Simple, right? Form submission, send email. That's usually what people do. Like 2 nodes, right?
Done.
I'm like,
Job
which is complete. Fine, right? Like, which is okay, right? Like, and like you said, like when people start, they just start, and but there's no tracking. However, my lead magnet automation has not even a form submission. It has a tag that as the trigger, because I know that you're going to use that lead magnet for the form. You got to use that as a partner offer for like a swap. You might use it for webinar submissions. You might use it for an ad. You might use it for all these different things. And then you're like, okay, I got to keep updating this like trigger for every form or every tag that I'm using. And then you're going to run out of space real fast, right? Yeah. Just the nuance of the app. So the tag starts it. Then I say, hey, if this origin custom field is blank, then update that custom field with, this is the lead magnet that brought that subscriber in, right? And the name of the lead magnet in there. Otherwise, if it's not blank, then I know it's been filled in and I know that they didn't come first time onto the list through that specific lead magnet. And then I update another field automatically, which is the last lead magnet that they came into, right? If you have multiple lead magnets, sometimes people are like, I don't know which which one converts into
Right.
customers, right?
And which one brought them in even? So you have 4 lead magnets. It's like, oh, what was the order that these all came in through?
Yep, absolutely. Right. And so, and it goes on from there. I basically update, track it. Like if they buy your product while they're in the lead magnet sequence, well, there's a conversion tag that gets applied to that. Right. And so my lead magnet, like most people, they set it up, form, email, done. My lead magnet automation has, 7, 8 nodes in there. And they're like, where is all of, well, do I need all of this stuff? I said, you might not need it now, but you're going to need it in the future. This is setting you up for the future, right? Like if you're just starting out and thinking about where people are coming from in a lead magnet from the first time they come onto your list, the last lead magnet that they came in through is important. Did they convert? Did they buy your thing while they were getting your lead magnet follow-up sequence? These are all the things that you got to kind of consider so that you can answer these questions for yourself later on. And that's what's most important.
And that's why I think it's so important as you're starting this optimization, this nurture sequence automation stuff, to work with someone like you, because you've been around the block. You know all these gotchas. Oh, you know what? 3 months down the line, this is going to bite you in the butt if you don't have it set up now. Whereas otherwise, you're going to spend a year or two like, oh, I should have had that tag 6 months ago, and now I don't know where these people converted. So having someone with that expertise, especially in the beginning, and it goes back to the point of like, I think people start this process too late. I think they should start in the beginning. As soon as they're like, yes, I am serious about optimizing my lead magnets, they need to talk to someone like you to get this all set up, because it makes it so much easier going forward.
Yeah. And I appreciate that. It's funny because when I'm a solopreneur, right? I'm the founder. I'm also the guy who cleans out the garbage, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm the one that's doing the work. So for me, it was like a lot of people would ask me like, what's the best setup? What's the thing? And I have tons of videos on my YouTube channel that talk a lot about this and show people and share the automations and things of that nature. And it even came down to the point where like people, this was three years ago, I just asked, like I typically do, to my list in December, hey, what are you focused on email marketing right now? And if I did, goes back to the segmentation stuff, if I knew you used Kit, I said, what do you want to learn in Kit, right? At that time, right? And I got all these replies back, and I was like, I have all of this stuff. And basically what it was people really wanted to know how to, like in a high level view, script their new subscriber's journey to becoming a customer.
Yeah.
And I was like, I have all those, like all piecemeal. I mean, it is piecemeal, right? Like it's on YouTube, it's in my newsletter. It's like all over the place. It's not a box, but I was like, they just want a box that they can buy off the shelf or something, right? Like just go pull it off. And that's why I created Creator QuickStart, which is the course that basically builds out these new subscriber journeys to become a customer, right? And it's funny as people start getting into it, because like those automations and the tracking is all talked about and how to build that stuff out and why you're doing those kinds of things. All of that stuff is in there. And there's always like maybe 1 or 2 people that are like, do we really need all of this stuff? I'm like, you don't need it, but you're going to ask about it. I know you're going to ask about it, because if you bought the product, that means that your mindset is in the right place. But don't take some shortcuts by just eliminating things. Ask me about it. Why is this here? Like, even if I don't explain it in the course, I'm here to help you, right? And so that's why I built the course, so that people weren't dependent on me, right? To at least get their stuff up and running. So and this is not just even on Kit, which is also surprising. There's 34% of people that have bought Creator QuickStart do not even use Kit. So like the Creator QuickStart is more of a method of the new subscriber stuff. So I say it's like 60% methodology and how to set this stuff up within modern day ESPs. So tag-based ESPs. And I was even surprised, I took like 4 or 5 months ago. I was like, oh, let me just look at the ESPs that people are using. And I was like, wow, a third of the people don't even use Kit. But the step-by-steps are in Kit, but they use ActiveCampaign.
Is it spread over ActiveCampaign and
ActiveCampaign's a big portion of that pie, but there's others. There's Keep in there. There's others in there, but it's like, I was really surprised because the sales page is all about Keep and things of that nature, but you can adapt it easily. Like it's really,
honestly at this point, I mean, we integrate with I think 130 different marketing tools at this point, and there's a lot of differences, but at the core functionality, they're all the same. It's like you said, there's people, there's tags, and there's custom fields. And that's it. Everything else is just a variation on that. And so as people go through funnels, if you are tagging people correctly and putting them in the right custom fields, then you can do your segmentation afterwards.
absolutely. Yeah. I mean, and I have a couple of people that bought Create a QuickStart that are on Beehive, and Beehive doesn't have some of the things that I talk about in there. And they're like, how do I do this in Beehive? I'm like, oh, unfortunately you can't. So there are some syntax things based on the platform that is there. However, like you said, like, in Kit, it's a visual automation. In Klaviyo, it's flows, like the syntax is just you just have to kind of adapt it to what you need. But as long as the methodology is the same, I mean, I started out in MailChimp when I did email marketing way back in the
MailChimp,
day.
Aweber.
Yep. I've used Aweber. I've then switched to Drip, now Kit. I've got clients on Keep and ActiveCampaign. So it's like all of it still works. You just have to figure out how to adapt it properly. That's all.
There was talking about the tagging and the do I really need this? Do you remember 6th Division? They were
yes.
So it was, I'm trying to remember the name of the guy I'm blanking out right now, but it was all Infusionsoft focused. And when we were doing the agency work before SegMetrics, we could tell as soon as you go into a client who had worked with 6th Division in the past, because I believe that they kind of over tagged, but their organization was meticulous and you could see each thing. And when we went into a client who had done that, we knew, oh, they followed this methodology, so we know where everything is.
Yep.
And I kind of see the same for yours as it becomes more and more standardized within your clients and the people who are using it, you then get to build that syntax and that language of how people not only are tagging and measuring, but how they're thinking about the funnels and the automation. And in my mind, it's really a thought. It's a change in thought that is the main thing that uplevels people's nurture sequences, right? It's an understanding. And you and I both have this from our tech backgrounds. It's like, oh, tagging something, that's obvious. Like putting a custom field, like a sub data and stuff like that. That's all obvious stuff. But if you're not used to thinking like that, it's a very challenging mental shift to take.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I had a client call this morning and she asked me the difference between a tag and a segment. And I was like, it's still to this day, it's if you are in it and this is what you're focused on, like you and I, that to us is way different things. And I just said a tag is a label that gets applied or doesn't. A segment is a bucket of subscribers based on a set criteria, right? So it's different, like it's very different. Yet from the outside looking in, and if you're not in it very often, it can be confusing. So I get that. And that's why, Create a QuickStart, the reason why I did the name, I suck at naming things. However, my thought
You're a real developer.
Yeah. I mean, my thought though was the idea of like when you buy like a TV or a desktop computer or something like that, and you open up the box, you have this kind of fold out. That's this QuickStart.
QuickStart
right?
manual, yep.
And so I kind of thought that like, hey, if you're looking to level up your email marketing rather than just sending out broadcasts out of Kit or ActiveCampaign or wherever, and you're looking to level up, this is the QuickStart for you. Yeah. Right. And this is
I think it's great naming.
Thank you.
Again, also a developer, so
Yeah,
take that with a grain
yeah,
of salt. But I think it's a great name. It is interesting though, because I assume you have this as well, where it's kind of the expert's dilemma, where do you always feel like you have to come up with things that you're teaching that are unique and no one has said before and like is really advanced stuff? And I tend to find that that's not the case. Like, is that?
Yeah, I don't know that I do. I really, I guess one of the superpowers that I have, and I was told this when I had no knowledge of recognizing it at the time,
Mm-hmm.
but when I was working full time, the director of IT used to bring me to sales meetings all the time. But I was a developer. I was a senior developer, um, a senior consultant, and things of that nature. And I asked him one time, on the way back to the office from one of these meetings, and I was like, I don't say anything in these meetings. Like, I'm just curious, why do you bring me along? And he goes, because you could translate human speak into tech speak and then back again.
Mm,
And you do it in a way where it really, people understand it. Like,
right.
Whether you're the layman's talking to you and then you go talk to the engineers and then back up the chain again, you have this knack of being able to translate the actual thing. And you could tell me, he's like, I can look at you and you give me like a little nod or like a little look or whatever. And he's like, I could see whether like it's going to be doable, not
Right.
doable, cost more, add time, whatever the case is. Like I could just see by your reaction. So at that time, I had no idea like really what that meant. But in the context of this is like, I really just try to like keep things simple all the time. Like automation gets so complex or coding gets complex or something like that. And one of my favorite phrases is Leonardo da Vinci said, simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. I even put that on a t-shirt because I was like, all right, that's perfect, right? People always think like automation's got to be complex. Yet, yes, I added, 6 nodes to automation that really only requires 2. However, everything's linear. There's no branching. There's nothing. The automation is responsible for the single function of that automation and then pass that subscriber into the next automation if it need be, right? And just daisy chain these things together and keep them very linear. So it's not a house of cards and like, oh, if I remove this branch, what happens? Like that's when people get really messed up. So I really try to simplify automation in a way that people can understand it so that then they can scale their business and accomplish the things that they want to accomplish and see the value in it. Right. Like, so that's, like it's always cool to do like liquid code and add personalization and like I nerd out about all that stuff. And there are times where like I could see talking with clients, I'm like, we could write one email. We can have
Do
like
all these
57 different variations on the one email based on the liquid. And they're like, what? I'm like, all right, let's pump the brakes. Let me
All right, we'll
step
do
back
one
a little
email.
bit, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I can overcomplicate it, but I try not to do that in many respects. I just try to say, maybe people come by way of YouTube and they say, hey, I saw this YouTube video of yours, but I kind of don't get it. But I think what I need is in there and it's just not sure. And then I just try to say it in a different way and try to see if it connects that way. So, yeah, I just try to keep it simple.
Yeah, I do agree. The overcomplication, especially of funnels, I think is one of the main ways that I think people shoot themselves in the foot, right? Because not only are, like you said, the funnels more complicated, which means that if you change something up here, it's going to have effects down here that you're not sure what they are, but also they're harder to track. How do you track something that has 7 different branches and can go in all these different directions? Where if you have a very simple, like this funnel feeds into this funnel, and maybe it has one branch at the end of, okay, this is a copywriter or a designer or a developer. Okay, we send them to the copyright funnel versus the designer funnel. And then, each thing is in a very specific block that you are able to measure separately or measure together once you start combining those tags. And I think that's one thing that a lot of people, when they're looking at tags and stuff, don't realize, which is that tags are additive, right? So I don't need to know that they clicked on this at this date with this tag and then went into this funnel necessarily, because I can, and I don't need to look at the combination, right? I don't need here's a great example, webinar to hard sell. I don't need a webinar hyphen hard sell, webinar hyphen soft sell. Like I don't need to combine that top lead magnet with the later funnels from tagging, because I know that they have the webinar and I know they have the hard sell tag. So I know exactly what flow they went through.
Correct. Yeah. And that's why also before I said, I don't use the form as a trigger. I always use a tag, and I call them driver tags, right? It's start hyphen something and completed hyphen something, right? And so that way, when I look at a tag cloud on any subscriber, I can say, all right, I know exactly the path that this person flowed through everything, and it makes it nice and easy. And I mean, that's one of the things that, like, if there's anything that I think ESPs lack, it's really understanding the flow of a subscriber. A lot of people always want to, they're like, I would just love to know what campaigns people were in and out of at an individual level. And I always ask why. And I think it's more of like, I just want to make sure people are going the way that I want them to go.
Yeah.
Right? But overall, you know, I say just keep it simple too. Like welcome, pitch, nurture, and keep each campaign as its own individual thing, so that people can kind of bounce in and out, and you can measure, like to your point, if they have that tag and they have that conversion tag through that campaign, then you know they converted on that campaign. Now, what lead magnet did they come into? Start your main lead magnet.
What was the first start?
Right?
Exactly.
And so you now know you can do the marrying of the data very simply. And you know, like I've built spreadsheets over the years for folks to do that kind of thing, and that's very manual. Nobody likes spreadsheets, but I've built these rudimentary, you know, web-based screens these days for that kind of stuff, because people ultimately, they want to know these specific numbers, like how many new subscribers came in, where did they come in from, how much revenue and how many customers that I have, and how do we marry those two things so that you get the hey, Facebook 100%, Instagram 0. Great. Okay. Now I know where I should pay attention to. Forget the Instagram thing. Let's turn that off, because that's not giving us money. And that's where it gets real dangerous, because the promise of ads, people are like, oh, I'll just spend $10 a day. Great. You spend $10 a day. It doesn't seem like a lot.
Did he bring anyone in?
But after you spend $300 over the next month, how much money did you recoup from that? You know, and a lot of people don't know.
Yeah. I mean, and at this point, $300, that's a TV. You could have bought yourself a TV for that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Dinner out a couple of times, you know,
exactly.
Like
exactly.
That,
so. Like, and you know, the tagging thing, the spreadsheets, that's what we were doing before we built SegMetrics. And it sounds like you're a similar boat with building the web side of things. But it's like, okay, we're exporting all the people, all the tags, all the purchases, and tons of pivot tables. And as that grows, A, it's time consuming, and B, eventually you're going to hit that 10 million row limit in Excel and not be able to do it anymore. I didn't know that Excel had a row limit, but it does. And we hit it very often.
Yeah. I mean, and you know, I think it's more because once you start, like, I mean, we'll go back to the cheers for the analytics, right? Like once you start investing in these tools and you start investing time into things, and I think now, especially with the way social media has changed, I think a lot of people are really seeing the value in email. Like, look, email's 50 years old, 50 plus years old, right? It's not going anywhere. People say that it's dead every year. I'm like, whatever.
20 years. 20 years I've been hearing that.
Like, where's Clubhouse these days? You know, like all of these other kinds of things, right? Where they said, hey, this is going to replace email because it's more engaging and more connecting and stuff like that. Yeah, great. Awesome. Fantastic. Call me in 6 months, right?
Yeah.
But the thing is, it's like when they realize that, they're like, okay, this is the asset that I have for the business, right? Like Twitter followers are not an asset to the business because they could go away at any point in time,
Right.
or your reach or whatever, right?
You don't control
all
it.
of that stuff gets limited. Now, your email list is yours. That's as valuable as a phone number. You can reach out to that individual, get to them, right? And you, for all intents and purposes, you have a better shot at them seeing your message, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when they realize that, and then they start doing the thing, and then they get the result, they're like, oh, hey, 1 + 1 does equal 2 over here, right? Whereas on social media, 1 + 1 can equal 27.
It's
right?
random. It
or
is,
-4, right? Like, it's just, you don't know. Then they're like, I want to make this repeatable. And then that's when they want the analytics side of things. And so that, like, it just takes that first campaign sometimes to be just like, hey, okay, great. Now, how do we dive into the data? What do we learn? What do we see? How do we improve? What do we remove? Those kinds of things. And then they're like, I don't know what I'm supposed to track. Like, I don't have any tracking. So then that's when they go and look for that stuff.
I think you bring up a really good point that I had not internalized, is that email is the only platform that you control fully. You are not beholden, beyond some like spam controls and stuff, to any algorithm or any other company. Right? Twitter can change their algorithm on a dime, or their name. Google Plus is gone, been gone for 10 years. Facebook changes constantly. Like, all of these things. Do you remember when organic posts used to work on Facebook? They would be like shared by the algorithm, and they turn that off so that they could make ads work, right? And so there were all these things that people were doing, and then the company changed it so that you couldn't do them anymore. The algorithm changed, so you had to be on top of that. Emails are the only things that don't change. Like, it's the only thing that you truly control.
Yeah. I mean, for all intents and purposes, like you said, I mean,
big
tech
there's
this
edge
year,
cases, but
big tech kind of, I guess, changed dials this year a little bit. And I think that was more for combating AI content. And they're protecting the end user for that. And so that's okay. But for all intents and purposes, if you're a good email citizen, you're going to land in the inbox with your subscriber list. And so, yeah, I mean, absolutely. It's the asset. That's why people, when you buy an online company, they want that email list, right? Like, they don't ask for the X followers, right? Like, I mean, organic like, I have like 7 or 8,000 followers on X, but if I post something on X, it's like, I think my views is like at 400.
Same here.
It's like a very tiny percentage, if that. And so I'm like, it's not even worth the time.
And that's views, not even engagement, right? Like, that's the thing, right? Like,
so, like, when for me, it's all about email. Email is centered to my business. It's centered to a lot of my customers' businesses and things of that nature. And I'm really just trying to make it easy for them to get to use email more, with or without me, right? And so, like, whatever way I could do that and scale them, like, and educate them and teach them on, hey, what's important to the business, the numbers based on your email marketing. How do we increase those numbers?
Yeah. This is one thing, like, I, back in the day, talking to Amy Hoy, Brendan Dunn, like Nathan Barry, back before ConvertKit and everything. And they would always be asked, like, the general question was, would you rather lose all the money in your bank account or your email list? And everyone said, take all my money, because as long as I have the list, I know I can bring it back.
100%.
Right? It's, exactly.
Yep.
I want to close on one more. We're talking a lot about analytics. We're talking a lot about improving funnels. And I think I know the answer to this, but what is the one number that you would recommend people look at in their funnels? Like, what do you find is the most valuable thing when trying to optimize one of their email sequences?
Well, outside of revenue, the number that you want to get, that I pay attention to most, which oddly enough, you can't track in most places, is replies.
Oh, interesting.
And the reason why, so revenue is top, like that.
Yeah.
If I press send and there isn't revenue coming back, then Why did I press
Yep.
send for? I mean, we're in business to make money, as bad as that sounds, but your subscribers opted into your list, not because they want another friend. They have a problem that they want you to solve. And so if your paid solution solves that problem, put that buy button in front of them. The other side is the replies. Now, the replies is that hard connection in the inbox. So we talked about like big tech, maybe changing some things around or spam filters catching you on occasion. If you have the replies, your inboxes are now connected. So if you could create a connection by getting those replies, every single week, I write an email that asks people for replies and I get replies back, right? A lot of times it could even be just, hey, reply with this one word, right? If you agree or whatever. Sometimes it's like an open-ended thing, right? And people send these long stories and I get into big, long conversations that span days or weeks even. And that's where that connection happens inside of that inbox. And that's when your subscriber list then really gets your trust. And so that's where, that's for me, revenue starts and then the replies is the other number that you can get.
I unfortunately think you opened up a huge can of worms that I want to talk about now, but I don't want to keep you through because I want to talk about like, how would you measure that? Like, I understand how you would measure that like manually, but like how?
Yeah, it's hard. It is really hard. I mean, I measure. So in a nutshell, I usually have reply campaigns and I measure that from the perspective of really, and you could do this if you're on Gmail, if your email domain is on Gmail, you could create these automations behind the scenes to tag things and like not to get too nerdy, but you could tag people as they reply on things using APIs and things of that nature. You could automate the tagging that way. So I do reply campaigns, especially when deliverability might be an issue. Yeah. These reply campaigns are really important. And so, automating replies and tracking replies is tough, but look, I mean, a lot of it could be gut check too. Like if you send out an email, you get like 5 replies, let's say on average, and then all of a sudden you send out an email, you're asking questions, you're not getting any replies a couple of times in a row, then it's like, oh, what's going on here? Maybe I'm not landing in the inbox as I once did, right? And things like that. So it's a gut check thing. But I wish replies was easier to measure.
Yeah. I think I'm actually going to have a sit down after this and just like think about that. Cause from a technology standpoint, I'm not even sure how you would do it without setting up some sort of intermediary to catch it. Right.
Correct. And that's typically what like the platforms do. Right. Like when you put on reply tracking, some of the platforms you can do that. However, then that causes the Gmails of the world and especially the Outlooks of the world to kind of be like, hey, wait, it's coming from this email address, but the reply to is to this email address. And then it's like funky. And so that becomes its own problem. But I mean, that's why I do the campaigns, because if you set up a reply campaign and it goes back to the automations, like, hey, this campaign is meant to get replies. If we're not getting replies on there, then we know there's a problem there. Right. And so the single function and the objective of that campaign is there.
Awesome. Jason, I want to say thank you so much for taking the time. This has been absolutely just illuminating and I love this. And you gave me a bunch to think about, which is the best result I could have.
Awesome, man. Yeah, I appreciate it.
Definitely. So where can people find you on the internet?
Yeah, you can find me at nurturekit.co. That's my business. Or you can find me, Jason Resnick, on LinkedIn. You'll see me there. If I'm on a social, that'll be the social.
Awesome. Jason, thanks so much for taking the time, man.
Yeah, thanks, Keith.
Appreciate it. Cheers.